Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel for another video. It's day 4 here for Player Zone Footmas, and this is a video I've been meaning to make for a long time and meaning to, make it make sense with stats to back it up and a full rundown. But you'll see by the title, probably a bit dramatic in the title, but I'll be talking today about how the Serie A has sort of become, a new league that former Premier League players can thrive in. And we know how different leagues have different identities, and to really put it simply, the pace and power of the Premier League, the defensive identity of the Serie A, the attacking, counter-attacking style of the Bundesliga, and the heavy passing, possession-based style of La Liga. And I think in another video I'll probably break it down to try and, debunk some of those theories. But all in all, those sort of, major storylines hold up. And I think the Serie A, it is a slower league, a slightly less physical league, but defensively orientated league where back fours sit in deeper, there's less sweeper keepers. And I guess the one key fact you can think about when you talk about the Serie A, it's the one league that Pep Guardiola hasn't gone and ruined yet. So football remains, a little bit more defensively orientated, a bit more structured in many regards, and less of those inverting fullbacks or overall possession or clouding and overcrowding midfield areas and doubling up in wide spaces. It's less of that, more simplified tactics. And I guess you can see by some of the stats, I've got some stats here. Last season in the Serie A, there was 4.5 direct attacks on average in Italy, which is 1.2 less per game per team than the Bundesliga. So it might not seem much in those stats there, but you think about 1.5 less attacks for each team for every game. You think about that across the rest of a season, there's less exciting, movements. And the pace, slows down, more defensively orientated, and it might just suit some Premier League players. I've got 10 players that I want to talk to today that didn't really work in the Premier League or was discarded by Premier League clubs and are now thriving in this Serie A or have thrived in Serie A in the past. It's quite an interesting sort of feat, and I think more English players as well will be heading across. I've got a lot more I could have named in here, but it seems like a common trend now. Godfrey going across. A player I haven't mentioned is Fikayo Tomori, who's gone across and made a big name for himself at AC Milan. I can imagine a lot more Premier League players looking for destinations in Italy to go and show why they're so valuable. Sead Kolasinac as well is another name as well that's been fantastic for Atalanta, was key in their winning last season's Europa League and being pivotal this season in their back three, but was seen as awful by Premier League fans and Arsenal fans when he was in the Premier League. But it's not, before we get into the players, it's not that the Serie A is any less, and I actually rate the Serie A quite highly, probably the most competitive league this season. You get some of the most tight battles in games of football, maybe due to the referees, maybe not, but you see a lot more fouls, yellow cards given in the league as well, maybe more combative and really tight nature in the midfield areas and attacking areas. That can also be linked to the Serie A as well. But to put it bluntly, last season, they had the best ranking or point system for UEFA's new coefficient rules. They ranked second overall after the Premier League because of the Premier League's history, but last season they ranked second in the new coefficient, meaning they had 7 clubs put into European competitions this season. They had the most points won or most points gained from any league last season, so it's not a bad league. I'd actually say it's probably one of the top leagues in the world. Maybe entertainment factor's not quite there. As I said, the attacking stats are slightly down, but this is a league that is very competitive, have a lot of strong sides, and sides now are starting to see doing much better in European competitions, and some of these players have definitely contributed to that. So, as I said, I'm going to take you through 10 players that are thriving in the Serie A after, being left by Premier League clubs or discarded by Premier League clubs or never quite worked in the Premier League. The first one's a bit of a caveat, but I have to put him in. Romelu Lukaku, for me, has become the Serie A's poster boy for attacking football, joining multiple clubs, doing a fantastic job at every single club. Inter Milan, now with Napoli, in between that with Roma as well. Reliable strike. He had 2 tough spells with Manchester United and Chelsea where he got joked about his first touch and the pace wasn't quite there. And with the league, the way the Premier League has gone with more quicker centre-backs and higher lines, it wasn't quite working for Big Rom in this sort of modern Premier League era. But he's gone to Serie A and has absolutely killed it. Obviously, he won the title with Inter Milan in 2021 and then headed back to Inter in 22-23. where he won the Italian Cup and Italian Super Cup, and the Italian Footballer of the Year was won in that 2021 season. So just goes to show he came across initially on loan and just did a fantastic job there. And he came back, Roma last season, did a great job on loan as well. Now on a permanent at Napoli, and he's just showing each single spell he's had, he's found goals, he's been an important figure to the side winning, and he's constantly contributed to sides getting trophies in Italy. First spell with Inter, that initial great run where he won Italian Footballer of the Year. They won the Serie A, 95 appearances, 64 goals, and was just unstoppable in that league alongside Lautaro Martinez. Then the loan spell from Chelsea when he returned to Inter, 37 appearances, 14 goals. Again, he wasn't at his best in that time there, but still smashing in goals in that run as well. Then Roma on loan, yet again, 47 appearances, 21 goals, and a struggling Roma side there, still contributed to a very high degree. And then this season, he's come to Napoli, 13 appearances, 5 goals already, on a permanent, working under Antonio Conte. He scored some very, very big goals for the club and is absolutely thriving yet again. And I just think the slower pace and the more centralised striking identity in Italy, where you feed the central striker, has absolutely benefited him. And we're seeing that massive bulks of goals could lead to a second Serie A title if Napoli continue the way they're going this season. And he's just been fantastic in the Serie A compared to, I guess, the struggles he's had in the Premier League, especially in the last 2 spells in particular. The next player is another former Chelsea player, Christian Pulisic, who's been a star this season for Milan, but a star for the last 2 seasons since he left Chelsea. Excelled, and I feel like he's been given a bit more of a free role. Pioli, he was very much improved this season under Fonseca, has carried a lot of the load and kept the manager probably in a job. With some of his work in the Champions League and in the league, he's become the leader of the club, captaining some games as well. Really living up to Captain America, his name tag as well, because he's made some massive plays down the run this season. As I said, looks more free, more capable and comfortable to take things on in this area, and it's absolutely showed. 15 goals, 11 assists last season for his 50 appearances. He's got 8 goals and 6 assists from 18 appearances this season. So those numbers just keep skyrocketing. He's been more heavily involved, whether it be on the left, sometimes in behind the striker as well. He's been the guy they go to. And through big periods last season and basically all of this season, the ball filters through Christian Pulisic. He's not a second or third option like he was at Chelsea. And we've got to think about it. He had some massive moments for Chelsea as well in that Champions League run, in the league as well, for big games as well. He's a big game player, Christian Pulisic, but he can fade in and out of games. And it feels like at Milan, he's become more of a central figure, become a player like he was when he first burst on the scene at Borussia Dortmund, and is giving that creative freedom and creative spark that he can show what he's all about with the ball at his feet. He's a special player, he's a special talent, and I think he was just getting quieted down by a lot of rotation, being deep at that Chelsea side and not being a first choice option, not being someone they go towards to try and find a goal. So he's absolutely thriving. This season, it says it all. 7.42 average match rating, 2.2 key passes per game, already 4 big chances created, 1.5 tackles, 3.2 ball recoveries, winning 3.5 ground duels. He's doing it all over the park, whether it be tracking back, going forward, goals and assists. It's a complete Christian Pulisic, and as I said, probably the best we've seen since those initial Borussia Dortmund days. So another player that's absolutely killing it in Serie A this season. And same as this man here, a recent acquisition, Scott McTominay, moved to Napoli for 30 million euros. Wanted by Antonio Conte, a very Antonio Conte type player and a very Serie A type player. Someone who can work up and down, very special with the ball at his feet. But again, has been forced into this role at Manchester United as a double pivot alongside Fred. He was shown what he could do last season when he was pushed forward into number 10 under Erik ten Hag last season. Clutch time goals, late goals, was the top goal scorer for Manchester United come the turn of the year. So you know he's got goals in his game. He's got a striker's build, and he's got that sort of fox in the box type mentality when you feel like he can find the back of the net in key moments, and he just knows where to be at the right time. He goes to this Napoli side, implemented at the number 10 with a Lobotka and Anguissa behind him. He's got that license to stay higher up the pitch and to create chances, and you're seeing that 3 goals, 1 assist, outperforming both his XG and XA. So his expected goals and assists are both below what his numbers are already this season. He makes a 1.4 tackles per game, 4.5 ball recoveries. Again, similar numbers to what we saw at Manchester United, but considering how much higher up the pitch he's playing and the free role he's been given under Antonio Conte. You watch the Napoli games, he picks the ball up in different regions. His physicality matches the league and probably supersedes the lead in terms of how he dominates the midfield battles. And it's just been a massive figure in this Napoli side. They didn't make too many changes to the team last season that finished ninth and couldn't string together 3 wins. This season, they're looking very, very strong. I believe there's only 1 loss in the league, sitting top of the league, a few points clear at the current point in time. And he's been one of the few changes they've made. So that goes to show the impact that Scott McTominay's had on this team and how well he fits the Italian league and the Antonio Conte system. 30 million euros looks like a bit of an unders now at this current point in time with the way he's playing his football. We'll continue with the Man United trend yet again, and probably the original player that I guess showed me this pattern, Paul Pogba. Leaving Manchester United on a free in 2012, became a superstar at Juventus, then went back to Old Trafford and it never quite worked out, but it was that initial move to Juventus where he left United on a free in 2012 where we knew Paul Pogba. That's where he became the young kid on the block, the player with flair, physicality, the intelligence on the ball, the passing range, the ability to hold off defenders. Defensively, not ideal, but goals and assists and just beautiful football. He was an artist. He had the paintbrush in his hand. He was painting all these great pieces of art when he's in the Serie A. He just oozed that confidence. He had that freedom, that free license in that Inter side with some great holding midfielders behind him. That has to be considered. But he just fit that league so well. And it was a shame he couldn't let it work when he came back to a year and a half ago now with, I guess, in the end, the drug scandal and also the injuries that he had at Juventus. Well, never quite got his feet settled. I think it was only 5 appearances in the end. But I had to guess if he had played that whole time, he would have been a key figure on that side there. Injuries did derail his time at Manchester United, but also, I guess, the management styles in the Premier League and the constant, pressure and eyes on Paul Pogba to do everything and the money fee that came with it, it never really worked in the Premier League. But we look back to that first time at Juventus, it was just the flair and freedom he had, the confidence he had. I think that's the second biggest thing for all these players is the confidence they have in the Serie A and the license they have to go and show what they can do, where there's not all the media eyes scrutinising them, when the fans are critical in Italy, but not as critical and sometimes as harsh as the English fan bases can be. They're allowed to express themselves and show their best versions of themselves. 4-time Serie A champion, obviously famously involved in that 13-14 record points tally for Juventus in that title run. 3-time Italian Super Cup winner, 3-time Italian Coppa Italia winner. He won the lot, 190 appearances, 34 goals, 41 assists, and some beautiful football played at Juventus, and such a superstar. At his peak was at Juventus, and he showed it. And from there, it sort of went a little bit downhill in terms of his club football career, but someone that just worked in the Serie A, worked in that slightly more defensive shape and system, and he was one of the few creative players. He was allowed to go and do his creative work with such defensively orientated players in behind him. So Paul Pogba, probably the poster boy for Serie A players, just players from the Premier League thriving in Serie A. Another player, and again, another Chelsea player, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, 16 million euro fee joining AC Milan from Chelsea last season, has thrived in a more progressive role, more like a attacking number 8 or a number 10 at times in behind the striker. Average a 7-match rating across his time. He became a fox and a box type player, 59 appearances, 10 goals and 2 assists. But for me, last season was a year that he sort of thrived and did the best work. 60% successful dribble rate, winning 5 duels per game. Clocked the 6 goals last season in Serie A. He was a very, very important player for this side on Pioli. Again, physicality he brought across, a freedom, a flair, and I think the most importantly for me is a fresh start. A few of these players, it doesn't quite work for them, but for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, it was just a fresh start. Always been at Chelsea, comes across to the Serie A new club, a new system, fans that were adoring him, and he just thrived under that environment. And as I said again, the 60 successful dribble rate, winning the 5 duels per game, they sort of summarise what he was doing. He was doing a little bit of everything in that sort of attacking number 8 role. And again, given license to go forward and express himself in the final third, I think really, really helped Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And as such, saw him produce a very, very complete season at AC Milan last year. Another player yet again left and let go from Chelsea and thriving in the Serie A. The next player, I think, is a prime example, and it's come this season. Nuno Tavares, loaned out to Lazio this season. He is absolutely killing it for the side. They are currently sitting in the top group, in the top bracket, equal on points with Inter Milan, sitting in fifth, which will likely be a Champions League spot if it ended today, but equal on points with third place Inter Milan. The side has looked very, very solid defensively, but for me, what Nuno Tavares has showed this season is his ability to go forward. These stats are ridiculous. Averaging a 7.4 match rating, 9 appearances, we've had 8 assists, 2 key passes per game, 6 big chances created so far, gets the 5.3 ball recoveries, 1.4 tackles per game, 2.2 clearances per game. All the defensive stats are up, contributing to the great defence that Lazio has had this season, but all of his attacking stats have gone through the roof this year. Up and down that left-hand side, making chances aplenty, whether it be as a wing-back or just a standard left-back. He's done a lot and looked very, very comfortable in this league and has settled down. The time at Nottingham Forest didn't quite work out, I guess, as we all thought on loan last season. Loaned out previous to that, never really hit the ground. There was attacking stats that were solid, never showed this full package which he showed this season. They are so reliant on the work he does down that left-hand side to create for the Lazio side, and he has just hit the ground running this season. Again, we always forget he's very, very young as well. I think 23 years of age. He could be a player that ends up joining a Serie A side permanently and becoming a key figure in one of those top Serie A sides that pushes in European competition, because he seems to have gone and joined the Serie A and been like a duck to water. He has absolutely loved it. The attacking football has shone. The defensive football as well has been reinforced. Much more complete fullback, much more of your all-rounder fullback that would fit in any team, any system this current point in time. And he's just developed and grown tenfold in the first few games of the season so far. Our next player, another United player, a lot of United and Chelsea players in this one here. It's Chris Smalling, who initially joined Roma on loan, then on a permanent deal in the 2021 summer, and has proved to be an invaluable member of that side when he was there, especially under Jose Mourinho. He was a very, very composed and pivotal player, the centre of 3 centre-halves in that side there. Cool, calm, collected. Again, less pressure, less identity needed to be forced on him. He's been more comfortable in a more defensively orientated system that didn't have to commit players forward and leave him vulnerable at the back. Mistakes suddenly disappeared from his game. He was good for a goal or two going forward as well. And the stats are just ridiculous. I know he was a part of a Jose Mourinho team, but this is a Roma team that struggled a lot in league football through different periods. But 59 clean sheets in 155 games for Roma. Became a top-tier Serie A centre-half, important in the side's 21-22 Conference League title, which is so important to the club. A long time since they'd won a trophy, and they was out to be won by that Roma side and Jose Mourinho in season 21-22. He was the number one man, as I said, at the heart of that centre-back 3 pairing. He was essential, being solid defensively, physical, and again, decent enough with the ball at his feet, bring across some of the things he was picking up at Old Trafford at Manchester United that he correlated to the Serie A. And I think when you think of the Serie A versus the Premier League, the slightly slowing down pace and not being forced to play a certain way that isn't comfortable for players helps players out. And I think Chris Smalling was being forced to play something in a system he didn't want to play at Manchester United come the end of his time there. He goes to Roma, where Jose Mourinho initially then joined, and it just became a perfect match. The manager liked the player was doing enough for the manager, and it just worked, it clicked. And again, the 59 clean sheets in those 155 games for Roma, a team that never really succeeded much in the league, just goes to show how important he was and how defensively orientated that system became when he was there at Roma. And he was a player that very much thrived in the Serie A. Another recent player, David De Gea, another Manchester United former player, joining Fiorentina after 18 months out. Obviously won the Golden Glove in season 22-23 at Manchester United. But in that season, he was negative 1.55 in terms of goals prevented. So actually was letting in more goals than he should have. This season, he's joined Fiorentina, again, after 18 months out. Very hard for goalkeepers to get back to the speed of the game and I guess find their hands again and be comfortable in net. But he's gone and shown that he has transitioned very, very well and is still one of the top keepers in the world. 33 saves already this season, including 2-for-2 penalty saves, conceding 0.7 goals per game, providing assists already this season, putting together 5 clean sheets in 10 starts in the Serie A. it's just been out of this world, and preventing 3 goals versus the negative 1.55. So a 4.5 goal swing since his initial time here in Fiorentina. The side is sitting in the top 4. Again, very competitive alongside the likes of Inter Milan, Atalanta, not too far off Napoli, the top of the league as well. He has been such a key figure, and the fans adore him there. He's become such an important player for the Fiorentina side, and I think a key player in this turnaround. A few different players implemented up top. I guess the turnaround of Moise Kean, but it's been led from the back, and the defensive identity that's been created by David De Gea in goal, and a very, very solid back 4. And I think he's shown that the transition being made was an important transition, and it's just breathed new life into this guy's career, because yes, he's slightly older, but for goalkeepers, he's nowhere near anywhere the age of retirement. This move here could just be the move that, I guess, caps his career off on the right note, because the way it was ending the last few years with leaving Manchester United, not finding a club, asking for these ridiculous wage demands, he finally found his place, and what a place has turned out to be in Fiorentina. So I think it's such a great example of the Serie A reviving a player in many regards there. The next one for me is another great story. Frank Anguissa, loaned out by Fulham after they went down, never really worked at Fulham between lots of managerial changes, system not quite fitting where he wanted to play, and all. I think the Premier League just being a little bit, I guess, that didn't suit his style of football. He goes to Napoli, plays as a double pivot alongside Lobotka, but the second deepest player, allowed the license to go forward and carry the ball. And his initial season, and once he joined as a permanent, some of his successful dribble rates, his ball carries, his progressive carries were through the roof, in the top 1% for midfielders in his role there, and won the Serie A in that season there, the 22-23 season, his full official season in the Serie A, wins the Serie A, a part of that ridiculous Napoli side. Came only on a €15 million fee. There was so much hype around him when he left France to join Fulham, a part of many expensive Fulham deals. And many guys didn't really fail at Fulham, but as I said, just never quite got his spot through injuries, change of managerial style, and being forced to play as the deepest player. Didn't quite fit that holding midfield role, which the Premier League has to force into you. And it was a funny time with COVID games as well, with the Fulham going up and down for multiple seasons there during that time where he was signed to the club. But he goes to the Serie A, and the difference he made was just phenomenal for the side. That initial 22-23 season, 3 goals, 5 assists, 1.4 interceptions per game, 1.5 tackles per game, 1 possession, 1.5 times per game, winning the 5 duels, averages just above the 7 match rating, and was just pivotal, central to that team there. As I said, doesn't include these carry stats, but his progressive carries, his forward passes, his ability to drive Napoli forward was such a key in that 22-23 season. It was the reason why that midfield dominated most teams. He went to Liverpool against Liverpool and dominated them off the park that year as well, running a very workman-like Liverpool midfield, but he just outworked them, outplayed them, and was just better all over the park than that Liverpool midfield. And that sort of put him back on the map in many regards. Had a really poor year last year. Napoli, no surprise, dropped down to 9th, but then refines a lot of his form this season in the 24-25 season. Already has 1 goal and 1 assist, 88% pass accuracy, 1.5 interceptions, 1.6 tackles, 5 ball recoveries, 1 clearance per game, wins over 50% of his duels, and Napoli are back in top place. And he said Scott McTominay a little bit more defensively orientated in front of him, but it's a very fluid midfield 3 now. Lobotka's still in there as the deepest man, but he's allowed to drop in at times, allowed to push on at times, create chances. A great goal already this season in the Serie A. He's a really complete midfielder. Obviously, he's built on his defensive identity, but the freedom he was allowed at Napoli to drive the ball forward, show his more progressive self, which he has shown in France, was such a bonus. I think it was that license and the role that fit him perfectly in the Serie A that never quite landed in the Premier League, that has shown that he's such a holistic, well-rounded central midfield player that's so important to a Serie A side, and so important to a side that could go 2 league titles in 3 years, and he could be pivotal to both those titles. So Frank Anguissa is a prime example of thriving in the Serie A. The final player is Henrik Mkhitaryan. Tough ending at United, a really tough time at Arsenal initially, where he left there for there as well. Initially joined Roma, 117 appearances, 29 goals there. Far from amazing, but looked much improved, much more central to the side's attacking movements. But then went to Inter Milan, and that's where the turnaround for me happened. He won the Conference League, obviously, with Jose Mourinho in 21-22 for the Roma side. But since joining Inter Milan, 1 Serie A title, 1 Italian Cup, 2 Italian Super Cups, has become, I feel like a pivotal cog to one of the best midfield threes in world football, alongside Hakan Calhanoglu and Nicolo Barella. It's a more flat midfield three at Inter Milan. An interesting system under Inzaghi, but he suits it so well. He's gone from being that number 10 or right-sided midfielder or right-sided winger to dropping in nice and deep into a number 8. Sometimes even feels like a number 6 at times alongside Barella and Hakan Calhanoglu, and does a fantastic job with his smarts on the football and the slowed down pace of the league to find passes and to dictate midfield battles and win midfield battles. Drifts out, again, has a little bit of a free range, a free roam to roll into different areas, pick the ball up in different spots, progress Inter Milan forward. And with the attacking wing backs that Inter have, it allows him to sit a little bit deeper and spray those passes out to the flanks and be as such a pivotal key cog in this Inter Milan successful system and side here. So he's a prime example of the league slows down a little bit more defensively oriented, a bit more time on the ball because of how deep teams sit, and Henrik Mkhitaryan can thrive because that's the sort of player he is. A smaller, more agile dribbling player that has the passing array and has the creative spark and flair that can separate himself in the Serie A versus the Premier League, which is a little bit too quick, a little bit more physical, and a bit more congested, that he can't show what he's all about. So again, a real, actually easy to explain example of why some Premier League players never work, but they will thrive in the Serie A. And that is the 10 for me. I know it's been a bit of a ramble, longer video, but it's been something that's always been on my mind. I think with, again, a lot of the recent Chelsea players moving to some of the big clubs in Serie A, Scott McTominay, David De Gea from Manchester United recently, Nuno Tavares absolutely thriving. And again, I haven't talked about Sead Kolasinac, haven't talked about Fikayo Tomori, and there's a lot more names I could mention as well. Look at Adam Lukman, who was at Everton at times in the Premier League, never worked out, now smashing it for Atalanta as well. There's so many different occasions of Premier League players that haven't just quite got to the pace of the league and hasn't thrived. Their roles don't fit with how the speed of the league works, but goes to a slightly slower, defensively orientated league and allows them to shine, whether they be defenders, midfielders, or forwards. It just works for some players. So that's the video here for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you feel the same way as me, that some players are just meant to fit in certain leagues? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, smash a like on it, subscribe to the Players End channel for more videos like these, and press that post notification bell so you know we upload here on the channel. It's day 4 of this mad Players Own Footmas. More videos to come, podcasts to come for day 5. Be excited about that. With that being said, ladies and gents, I hope you have a great day. Enjoy the football festive action, and I'll see you guys for the video very, very soon. Till next time, guys. See you later.